Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Sir Thomas More, and today we get to hear from Sir Thomas More in what some versions call Act 3, Scene 2, what other versions call Act 3, Scene 1. Wherever it is, we're sort of past the halfway point. We dealt with the whole London riot thing, and Sir Thomas More has ascended. He was the sheriff, then he was added to the Privy Council, now he's the Lord Chancellor, which is like right below the king. So he's now very, very much in power. And a lot of the Londoners that were rioting, he was able to get them pardoned, except for poor John Lincoln, who hanged himself before the pardon was able to come through. But in this Act 3, Scene 2, or Act 3, Scene 1, where we are now, we started out with Sir Thomas More just taking a moment to reflect on his sort of meteoric rise from his humble beginnings to where he is now as the Lord Chancellor, but also reminding himself to stay humble because he doesn't want the desire for bigger things and better things to ultimately be his downfall. And then at the end of yesterday's monologue, he turns to his servant Randall, who yesterday I accidentally called Russell, but it's Randall. He turns to Randall and says, "Are you ready?" And Randall comes in dressed exactly like Sir Thomas More, because they look somewhat similar. So Randall is now dressed like him. And Randall's like, I'm kind of proud of myself, like what I put together here. I'm looking pretty good, and I've been, studying you, all that kind of thing. And Sir Thomas More says, "'Tis fit thou shouldst wax proud, or else thou ne'er be near allied to greatness. Observe me, sirrah. The learned clerk Erasmus is arrived within our English court. Last night, I hear, he feasted with our honoured English poet, the Earl of Surrey. And I learned today the famous clerk of Rotterdam will visit Sir Thomas More. Therefore, sir, take my seat. You are Lord Chancellor. Dress your behaviour according to my carriage. But beware you talk not overmuch, for 'twill betray thee. Who prates not much seems wise, his wit few scan, while the tongue blabs tales of the imperfect man. I'll see if great Erasmus can distinguish merit and outward ceremony." So he's pulling a trick. He's pulling a switcheroo. He wants to see if Erasmus can tell that this is not actually Sir Thomas More, but somebody else who's just disguised like him. So Erasmus is a learned man of good reputation, and he has come to visit. He had dinner last night with the Earl of Surrey, but then he's supposed to be coming and visiting More today. And we already know that More likes to do a little bit of trickery stuff, the whole bit with the pickpocketing and stealing that purse to prove, oh, you had 7 pounds in your purse. That's way too tempting for people. He does like to do that little bit of trickery, that little bit of wordplay, that little bit of examining of people's perceptions. So he wants to see if Erasmus is going to be able to tell that this person presented in front of him isn't actually Sir Thomas More. But he instructs Randall, he's like, be careful that you don't say too much, because people who talk too much are often perceived as dumb, and you'll get much closer to giving it away than if you just sit and are quiet. So just watch out for that, and we'll see if Erasmus is able to guess that you're not actually me. And Randall's like, okay, sounds cool. And then a sheriff brings in an old man with long hair, long beard, whose name is Faulkner, who is accused of being part of not quite a riot, but a bit of a kerfluffle in the marketplace where things turned into a bottleneck, and he was trying to part people and blah, blah, blah. And the sheriff is saying that this guy Faulkner was actually one of the instigators of that. And Faulkner had refused to be tried by anybody other than Sir Thomas More. So he's brought in front of Sir Thomas More, and there's some back and forth and a little bit, I didn't do it, and I'm actually not guilty. No, but he was there, and he was in front of it. And Sir Thomas More is like, who do you work for? And we find out that Faulkner works for the secretary for the Bishop of Winchester, who apparently More doesn't like very much, because then he starts giving Faulkner a little bit of crap for his long hair. He's like, how long have you had the long hair? Faulkner's like, I've had this hair my whole life. He's like, no. How long have you been growing this hair? He's like, I've been growing this hair my whole life. He's like, no. When was the last time you went to the barber? And Faulkner's like, I haven't been to the barber in 3 years because I took this vow that for another 3 years I won't cut my hair. And Moore is like, you know what, take him and put him in Newgate prison until the time of his vow has worn out. And Faulkner's like, wait, you're going to put me in jail for 3 years for this thing that, like, I'm not even really necessarily guilty of? And Moore is like, well, if you want to cut your hair, then you only have to stay there for a month. And Faulkner's like, what? And he's taken away. And everybody ends up leaving the stage except for Randall, who, remember, is dressed as Sir Thomas More, just in time for the Earl of Surrey and Erasmus to arrive. And that feels like a good place to stop for today, because we'll get into their interaction and the results thereof tomorrow, leading into tomorrow's monologue. So we'll stop there for today. But come on back tomorrow and see if Erasmus is smart enough to know that Randall is not Sir Thomas More. I'll see you then. Mwah.